Come on. Good job.
Clark's Ultimatum Shocks, WNBA, save Cunningham and Hull or lose me. This is insane. Caitlin Clark isn't just changing the WNBA anymore. She's straight up reshaping her own franchise from the inside out. Word on the street is that Clark quietly pulled off a major power move behind the scenes, pushing Indiana management to lock in Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull, two of her closest allies, no matter the cost. And here's the wildest part. It worked. Reports are blowing up saying Clark didn't just suggest anything. She made it crystal clear to Fever execs that Sophie and Lexie were non-negotiable. She wants them back, she wants consistency, and she wants people she can trust when it's go time next season. For weeks, everyone thought Lexie Hull was gone. We saw tearful goodbyes, emotional captions, even talk that she'd already packed her bags for another team. But guess what? That whole story was a total smokescreen built off half-truths and clickbait headlines. Because now we know Clark herself stepped in, made a call, and shut it all down. Multiple insiders are confirming she went straight to the front office and said those two are off limits. She's drawing her line in the sand, and honestly, can you blame her? Clark's about to enter her make-or-break sophomore year, and she knows what's at stake. The Fever went from rock bottom to the semifinals because of her leadership and the chemistry she built with those exact players. You can see it every time she steps on the court, that instant connection. When Clark drives and kicks it out to Lexie for a corner three, or Sophie crashes the glass for a putback, it's magic. That's the kind of trust you can't fake, and Clark clearly knows it. It just clicks, you know? That kind of on-court chemistry can't be bought, not even with the biggest free agency budget. But of course, the media couldn't resist spinning it into a drama.
Who is ESPN predicting to leave the Indiana Fever in free agency? Who are they predicting to leave all of these teams? This is the most free agents in WNBA history. Everybody is trying to cash in on this new CBA. We got to figure out who is about to be leaving Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, along with some of the other.
Caitlin Clark saves her friends from being cut, makes way better headlines than Fever exercise restricted free agent rights like every other team. Classic media chaos. So let's straighten this out. Lexie Hull is a restricted free agent, meaning Indiana owns the right to match any offer another team sends her way. She didn't say goodbye. She said she was unsure, which is exactly what every player says before the contract talk begins. But here's where the plot flipped. The whole narrative changed with just one move from Caitlin Clark. Clark went public under Lexie's post and dropped 3 little words that broke the internet. So proud of you. That wasn't a farewell. That was a message, a quiet way of saying, I got you. And trust me, the Fever's front office didn't miss it. When Clark shows public support like that, ownership listens. Because when she speaks, sponsors, networks, and the fan base follow. This isn't 2023 anymore. This is the Clark era. She's not just a player, she's a multi-million-dollar brand with influence that stretches far beyond the scoreboard. And that's exactly why keeping Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull isn't just about stats. It's about loyalty, grit, and chemistry that keeps the whole team steady when chaos hits. When half the lineup was banged up last season, it was Sophie who stepped up. She was the first one defending Clark in press conferences, holding it down and making sure the locker room didn't crack under pressure. That's what real teammates do, and Clark knows it. When Lexie couldn't buy a bucket that night, Clark didn't flinch. She kept dishing her the ball until it finally dropped. That's real trust, the kind you can't fake no matter how flashy the stat sheet looks. So why would Indiana even think about letting players like that walk? One word: money.
Very uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit, but I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so.
The Fever are heading into an offseason where nearly half their bench hits free agency, and that salary cap is looking tight. They can't pay everyone. But there's one person they can't afford to upset, and that's the woman who single-handedly dragged their franchise out of irrelevance. That's the full weight of Caitlin Clark's power on display. When she wants someone protected, the team doesn't hesitate. They listen. Period. This is the same organization that used to make moves based on spreadsheets and 5-year plans. But now, every decision runs through one question. Will this keep number 22 happy? And honestly, that's smart business. When you've got a generational player who sells out arenas, moves merch like a superstar, and brings national TV exposure, you build the franchise around her vision. Not because she's throwing demands, but because she's earned that voice. Let's be real. Before Clark showed up, the Fever were a full-blown rebuild gone wrong. They didn't just need a point guard, they needed a spark, a leader, a face that made management care again. Clark brought all that. So, when she quietly tells execs, "I want Sophie and Lexie back," it's not just a request, it's a statement. It's her shaping the culture of a team that finally matters again. And for anyone saying she's overstepping, let's cut the act. Every superstar does this. LeBron's done it, Steph's done it, Aja Wilson's done it too. When you're the reason the lights stay on, you get a say in who shares that spotlight. The twist here, Caitlin's doing it faster and younger than anyone in WNBA history. And here's where it gets wild. Insiders say the Fever were already planning to slash payroll by not matching Lexie's next offer. That's right, they were ready to let her walk, until Clark changed everything.
Uncertain for the entire league in general, but you're a free agent for the first time. Have you thought about what free agency might look like for you if you'd like to be back?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a restricted free agent, so I think that changes things a little bit. But I've loved my years here in Indiana. So obviously with a lot of uncertainty, you don't know what's to come, but I've built a life here, and I love this franchise. I love the people. I love the fans, so.
The Fever fully expected Lexie to get offers from other teams, mostly seeing her as that defensive spark off the bench. But the second Clark's camp caught wind of it, everything flipped. Suddenly, management hit pause and started reevaluating their options. Then came the media explosion, reports about Clark's private sit-down with GM Amber Cox, insider talk about player chemistry, and whispers of her core preferences. Within a week, the whole vibe changed. The same execs who were ready to let Lexie walk were now preaching about continuity and rewarding team chemistry. Translation: Clark spoke, and the front office listened. And it didn't stop there. Sources say Sophie Cunningham, who had been under fire for her outspoken comments after that WNBA warning fiasco, was also on the hot seat. Yeah, you heard that right. The front office was apparently ready to move on from her just to dodge more headlines. But Clark wasn't having it. She stepped in again and made it crystal clear. Sophie stays. That's loyalty on full display. The same Sophie who took heat online for defending Clark is now being shielded by her. That's not PR. That's personal. And now, that loyalty has management completely boxed in. Because let's be real, if the Fever had actually let Sophie go after all that, it would have been a straight-up PR disaster. Fans would have gone ballistic. You can't just dump the one player who literally stood up for your franchise star when things got messy on the court. Sophie wasn't just defending a teammate. She was defending the brand, the culture, and the player who turned Indiana into must-watch basketball again. And Clark made sure management understood exactly what that loyalty was worth. That's not how you build trust with your fan base, not even close. So what Clark did wasn't just smart, it was essential. She saved the Fever from walking straight into another PR nightmare. Because let's be honest, this team's had more than enough negative headlines already.
Actually, I'm just actually really motivated, and I think I'm at a really good spot in my life where I'm just excited to just pour into my body, pour into things that I enjoy. And I'm just so excited for this upcoming season because I don't know where I'm going to be. And I just feel like in the W, your golden years, I would say, is anywhere from.
What they need now is stability, consistency, and the kind of locker room energy that keeps everyone locked in on winning, not fighting off drama. And that's exactly what Clark, Sophie, and Lexie bring to the table. Their chemistry is pure balance. Clark's fire, Sophie's fearless attitude, and Lexie's calm, steady defense. That's the perfect blend that let this team swing way above its weight all season long. So no, this isn't about favoritism or some besties club. It's about results, and Clark knows exactly what it takes to win. But here's where it gets spicy. What Clark just pulled off isn't just about saving teammates. It's a massive power statement to the entire WNBA. She basically just said, if you want to win with me, you protect my circle. And that message hit hard across the league, because make no mistake, this wasn't some casual locker room chat. This was a full-blown power move. Clark's at the point where her voice carries more weight than half the boardroom combined. Every trade, every signing, every marketing decision now runs through one question. How does this affect Caitlin? And honestly, that's exactly how it should be. When you've got a once-in-a-generation player who packs arenas, drives TV ratings, and puts your franchise on the map, you don't treat her like just another name on the roster. You treat her like the reason the lights stay on, because she is. You treat her like the foundation, the rock everything's built on. You build the house around her, not over her. And that's exactly what this entire move proves. Caitlin Clark isn't just the centerpiece of Indiana's present, she's the architect of its future. When news first broke that she'd stepped in to keep Sophie and Lexie, the internet went wild. Half the crowd called it favoritism, the other half said she was being too controlling. But let's be real, those critics forgot everything this team went through last season. Half the roster was injured, the media turned every moment into a circus, and the league had her under a microscope like she was some science project. She got hacked on the court, booed on the road, criticized online, and she still showed up raining threes and dragging the Fever back into the playoffs. You don't survive that without a circle that rides for you, no matter what. For Clark, that circle has names, Sophie and Lexie. Sophie's been her enforcer since day one. When everyone else stayed quiet, Sophie spoke up. When the critics took cheap shots, she fired back. When Clark took a hard foul, Sophie was right there, ready to send a message. That's real loyalty, and Clark sees it. Then there's Lexie, the glue holding it all together. She's quiet, steady, and ice cold under pressure. The kind of player every star dreams of having beside them. She does the little things, spacing the floor, guarding multiple positions, never complaining about her role, and somehow still making everyone around her better. Those are the details that win games, even if they never hit the highlight reel. And here's the truth. You can't trade that kind of chemistry. You can't buy trust at free agency prices. Clark knows it, and that's why she used her influence to protect that formula. That's not ego. That's leadership in its purest form. If Indiana's smart, they'll take the hint. Because history doesn't lie. The Fever have been terrible at holding on to momentum, and now they've finally got a superstar who knows exactly how to keep it rolling. The Fever have this bad habit. They take one step forward, then blow the whole thing up the next season. Clark's move just forced them to break that cycle once and for all. By standing behind Sophie and Lexie, she's basically saying, stop rebuilding every 6 months and start building something real. That's what championship teams do. They build chemistry, not chaos. But here's the part the media hasn't really touched: the timing. All of this is going down right before one of the most unpredictable off-seasons in WNBA history. The collective bargaining agreement is about to expire, and everyone's bracing for a messy fight at the negotiation table. A potential 2026 lockout has players nervous. Nobody wants to be left teamless or stuck somewhere they're not valued. That's why Clark's loyalty move hits different. She's sending a message that echoes across every locker room. If you ride with me, I'll ride for you. In a league where players often feel replaceable, that kind of loyalty cuts deep. It builds trust, and trust builds dynasties. And the craziest part? She's doing this as a second-year player. That level of influence this early is unheard of. Even legends like Aja Wilson or Breanna Stewart, didn't get this much control that fast. But Clark, she's changing the entire player power dynamic overnight. Her influence goes way beyond points and assists. It's about presence. When she speaks, executives listen. When she posts, fans react instantly. When she makes a move, sponsors and ownership follow the ripple. It's wild to see, but Caitlin Clark isn't just another star. She's the first WNBA player with fan base power big enough to force decisions at the highest level. She's rewriting how influence works in this league, and everyone, players, coaches, and execs, knows it. Now let's talk about what this move really means for the rest of the Fever. Keeping Sophie and Lexie isn't just some minor roster tweak. It changes everything about Indiana's direction. It says they're finally choosing chemistry over chaos. It says they're actually listening to the players who make fans tune in every night. And it proves they're done pretending this is still a rebuild. Because here's the truth. Indiana's championship window is now sitting right inside Clark's prime. Boston's owning the paint, Clark's controlling the spotlight, and the league's finally watching every move they make. You don't throw that away just to save a few thousand off the cap. Keeping Sophie and Lexie is Indiana saying loud and clear, we're serious now. They're not just holding on to role players, they're keeping the heartbeat of the locker room. And yes, let's call it what it is. This all happened because of Caitlin Clark. Does that make her the unofficial GM of the Fever? Maybe not on paper. But let's be real. Practically, absolutely yes. Because think about it. If Sophie or Lexie had walked into management's office by themselves, they'd probably already be gone. But with Clark behind them, suddenly they're not just players, they're core culture pieces. That's power, real power, the kind that reshapes a franchise. And that's the bigger picture here. The power dynamic in the WNBA is changing fast. This isn't the old school league where players were told to smile, play, and stay quiet. The new generation, led by names like Clark, is rewriting the rules. They're not just athletes anymore, they're stakeholders. And what Clark just did is a masterclass in influence. She showed every young player in the league how to use leverage without saying a single dramatic word. That's silent dominance, and the league just got the message loud and clear. She didn't tweet a threat. She didn't post some cryptic quote. She just told her team what she wanted and got it. Straight up. No drama, no games, just power in motion. And the fans? They ate it up. The comment sections were flooded. People calling her the boss, the franchise, and saying, finally, someone who actually knows what this team needs. Because deep down, everyone knows she's right. Keeping Sophie and Lexie was never about friendship. It's about foundation. You don't win championships by swapping faces every offseason. You win by keeping the right ones close. Ask any legend. Jordan had Pippen, Kobe had Fisher, Steph's got Draymond, and Clark. She's got Sophie and Lexie. They're not just teammates, they're extensions of how she plays. They balance her intensity, protect her when things get rough, and keep the whole offense flowing like clockwork. That's why fans are calling this the smartest move of the offseason. Instead of letting management break apart something that clearly works, Clark stepped up and made sure they locked it down. That's not diva behavior. That's winning behavior. It's leadership with purpose. And honestly, it's about time the WNBA had a star who's thinking legacy, not just viral highlights. Now heading into next season, Indiana's got everything it's been missing for years: leadership, chemistry, and a core that actually believes in each other. And every bit of that stability traces back to one person: Caitlin Clark. Sure, the league might feel uneasy about how much power she's pulling already, but they can't deny what's happening on the court. The Fever are no longer some rebuilding project. They're a legitimate contender with a culture built around belief, loyalty, and leadership that wins. And that's the real story. The rise of Caitlin Clark, not just as a player, but as the powerhouse shaping the new WNBA. The Fever aren't just another team anymore. They're being shaped by the most powerful voice in women's basketball. Caitlin Clark isn't waiting for permission. She's leading from the front, and management finally had the sense to listen. This might just be the first real step toward a championship run if they keep trusting her vision. But here's the question everyone's asking. Did Caitlin Clark just save the Fever from another offseason disaster, or is she starting to hold too much power for her own good? Is this leadership or domination in disguise? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear every take. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this video if you're riding with Clark's rise. Because one thing's for sure, when Caitlin Clark talks, Indiana listens, and the entire WNBA shakes. See you on the next one.